August 1943, RAF Marham. Lieutenant Colonel James Mitchell stood watching a de Havilland Mosquito taxi past his parked B-17 Flying Fortress. The contrast was startling. His bomber was a massive four-engine fortress equipped with machine guns, armored crew positions, and self-sealing fuel tanks. The British aircraft was sleek, compact, constructed entirely from wood, and carried no defensive weaponry whatsoever. Mitchell had arrived in England 3 months earlier with the 8th Air Force, part of the American strategic bombing campaign against Germany. His squadron conducted daylight precision raids deep into occupied Europe, confronting intense fighter opposition and anti-aircraft fire that darkened the skies. Each mission represented a calculated gamble. Would they reach their target, deliver their bombs, and return home before German fighters overwhelmed them? The losses were staggering. During the recent Schweinfurt raid, 60 of 230 bombers had been lost, 26% casualties in a single mission. And here was this wooden British plane, unarmed, manufactured by a furniture company, reportedly flying bombing missions over Germany with minimal losses. An RAF pilot emerged from the Mosquito, removing his flight helmet. Mitchell approached him, curiosity overriding protocol. "Excuse me, Flight Lieutenant. I'm Colonel Mitchell, 8th Air Force. May I ask about your aircraft?" The British pilot appeared young, perhaps 25, possessing the casual confidence of someone who had survived numerous combat missions. "Flight Lieutenant David Reynolds, 105 Squadron. What would you like to know, Colonel?" "I've heard stories about the Mosquito. They say you fly to Berlin and back without fighter escort, without defensive guns, and your losses are negligible. That can't be accurate." Reynolds offered a slight smile. "Depends on your definition of negligible. We've lost aircraft, certainly, but our loss rate stands at roughly 2% per sortie. I understand your heavy bombers are experiencing somewhat higher casualties." Mitchell bristled at the understatement. "We're losing 20% of missions, but we're carrying 10 tons of bombs with 10-man crews in armored aircraft with fighter escorts. You're carrying, what, 2 tons?" "Correct. 2 crew members, pilot and navigator. No defensive armament, no armor plating, just speed and altitude. The Mosquito cruises at 380 miles per hour at 28,000 feet. German fighters struggle to intercept us, and when they do, we can outrun them. We don't require guns if we're faster than the enemy." Mitchell examined the Mosquito with renewed interest. The aircraft possessed elegant simplicity, a streamlined fuselage, twin engines, clear canopy, yet appeared fragile compared to his B-17. "It's constructed from wood. How does it withstand combat damage?" "Wood offers advantages," Reynolds explained. "It registers poorly on radar. Repairs are straightforward. We've patched battle damage using standard carpentry techniques, and its lightweight nature contributes to our speed. The entire aircraft weighs less than your bomber's bomb load. But you can only deliver 2 tons of bombs. We carry 5 times that payload." "True, but we reach the target, Colonel. Our navigation proves more precise because we're not combating fighter attacks. We bomb from higher altitude with superior accuracy, and we consistently return home, or nearly always. Your 10-ton bomb load provides little benefit if the aircraft doesn't survive to deploy it." The implication was clear and stung. American bombers flew heavily armed, heavily armored missions, yet suffered devastating losses. The British operated unarmed, wooden aircraft, yet returned consistently. Something was fundamentally wrong with the American approach, and everyone recognized it. The Mosquito's origin stemmed from a heretical concept. Bombers didn't require defensive armament if they could outpace fighters. In 1938, when the Air Ministry demanded heavily armed, heavily armored bombers, Geoffrey de Havilland proposed the exact opposite. His company, known for civilian aircraft and wooden construction techniques, presented a radical solution: construct a bomber entirely from wood eliminate all guns and armor, utilize weight savings for additional engines and fuel, and rely exclusively on speed for survival. The Air Ministry immediately rejected the proposal. Every aviation expert knew bombers needed defensive guns. The entire doctrine of strategic bombing assumed formations of heavily armed aircraft providing mutual protection. An unarmed bomber represented suicide. Yet de Havilland persisted. His repeated calculations demonstrated a wooden airframe would be lighter than metal construction. Eliminating guns, armor, and gunners would conserve additional weight. Twin Rolls-Royce Merlin engines would deliver tremendous power. The resulting aircraft would outperform any service fighter and operate at altitudes where most fighters struggled. The Air Ministry remained skeptical, but authorized a limited order in 2020, primarily to utilize non-strategic materials. Britain faced critical aluminum shortages. A wooden aircraft would employ furniture industry capacity, not contributing to war production. The first prototype flew in November 2020. Test pilots expressed astonishment. The aircraft handled superbly, exceeding contemporary fighters in speed, while outperforming most bombers in range. During trials, a Mosquito readily outran a Spitfire, Britain's fastest fighter in level flight. Production commenced in 1941, yet skepticism endured. Many bomber commanders refused to operate unarmed aircraft, viewing the Mosquito as a dangerous experiment that would provide easy targets for German fighters. The initial operational squadrons faced hostility from peers flying their proper bombers, heavy aircraft with adequate defensive armament. The Mosquito crews would prove them all wrong. 105 Squadron received the first operational Mosquito aircraft in November 1941. The squadron's mission involved reconnaissance and precision bombing of targets where accuracy mattered more than tonnage. The crews were volunteers, experienced pilots willing to operate experimental aircraft that conventional wisdom deemed unsustainable. Flight Lieutenant David Reynolds numbered among the first volunteers. He had previously flown Blenheim bombers, experiencing their vulnerabilities firsthand. The Blenheim attempted to balance speed and defense. It failed at both. The Mosquito made a clear choice: become sufficiently fast that defense becomes unnecessary. That logic appealed to me. The inaugural operational mission was a photographic reconnaissance sortie over northern France in September 1941. Reynolds flew with navigator Philip Sampson. They crossed the Channel at low altitude, ascended to 30,000 feet over France, photographed their targets, and returned without encountering enemy aircraft. "It almost proved disappointing," Reynolds recalled. "We'd prepared for dramatic confrontations with German fighters, practiced evasion maneuvers, developed emergency procedures. Instead, we flew to France, captured photographs, and returned home. The Germans never approached close enough to engage." The initial bombing missions followed in May 1942. The targets were precision objectives, specific buildings, rail junctions, bridges, where accuracy mattered more than destructive power. The Mosquito aircraft flew individually or in pairs, navigated directly to targets, bombed from high altitude, and departed before German defenses could respond effectively. The tactics differed completely from heavy bomber operations. American and British heavy bombers flew in massive formations for mutual protection, approached targets in daylight, and fought through fighter opposition. Mosquito aircraft operated alone, relied on surprise and speed, and typically departed before German forces realized they had arrived. The loss rates reflected this divergence. During the first 6 months of Mosquito operations, 105 Squadron flew 144 sorties and lost 2 aircraft, a 1.4% loss rate. Comparable figures for heavy bombers typically ranged from 5 to 10% per mission, sometimes significantly higher during particularly dangerous raids. The Berlin raids, the missions that established the Mosquito's legendary status, occurred on January 30, 1943. The date held significance. the 10th anniversary of Hitler's rise to power. Nazi leadership had scheduled massive celebrations in Berlin, featuring a radio address by Göring to the German people. Air Chief Marshal Arthur Harris, commander of RAF Bomber Command, determined to disrupt the festivities. He couldn't dispatch heavy bombers to Berlin in daylight; the losses would prove catastrophic. But he could send Mosquito aircraft. 3 Mosquito aircraft from 105 Squadron received the mission assignment. The plan was audacious: fly to Berlin in daylight, bomb the city during Göring's speech, and return before darkness. The timing would deliver visible humiliation to Nazi leadership, demonstrating that British aircraft could reach Berlin at their discretion. Mitchell was selected to lead the mission. He and navigator